The glamour flickered at the worst possible moment. Lila felt the magic slip like silk tearing, a cold whisper across her skin that made her breath catch. She stood in the center of the great hall, surrounded by 200 wolves, whose alpha had summoned every pack member for the seasonal assembly. The air thrummed with dominance and fur, and the electric hum of shifter energy pressed so thick she could barely breathe through it. And now her mask was cracking. She pressed her nails into her palms, willing the spell to hold. Just another hour, just long enough to slip away, before anyone noticed the girl who worked in the pack kitchens didn't smell quite right. 10 years. She'd hidden for 10 years. The wolves around her shifted restlessly, shoulders brushing as they waited for their king to speak. Lila kept her eyes down, her posture carefully submissive, everything about her designed to blend into the background. Invisible. Forgettable. Then the hall went silent. Not the natural quiet of a crowd settling, but the sharp, breathless hush that came when an apex predator moved. Lila's pulse spiked. She felt him before she saw him. Alpha King Kael Thorne stepped down from the dais, his boots echoing against stone. The crowd parted without hesitation, wolves lowering their gazes as he passed. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried himself with the kind of lethal grace that made even the bravest wolves think twice about meeting his eyes. Lila had avoided him for a decade, kept to the edges, worked the early shifts when he toured the grounds at noon, but now he was walking straight toward her. Her glamour flickered again, a shiver of light that rippled over her skin like water disturbed. She saw his nostrils flare, saw gold bleed into his dark eyes. No, 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 no. He stopped 3 feet away. The wolves on either side of her stepped back instinctively, leaving her exposed in a widening circle. Kael's gaze locked on hers, and the air between them pulled tight. He inhaled slowly, deliberately. Lila's heart hammered so hard she thought her ribs would crack. She wanted to run, wanted to bolt for the doors and pray the forest would swallow her before his wolves brought her down. But her legs wouldn't move. Her body had gone rigid under the weight of his attention, every instinct screaming at her to submit or flee, and neither option would save her now. Kael's eyes flared brighter, pure molten gold. And then he growled. Low, rough, a sound that vibrated through her chest and made her knees weak. Mine. The word rolled through the hall like thunder. Lila stopped breathing. Around them, the pack erupted in whispers, shocked, confused. She heard the word mate, repeated in a dozen hushed voices, felt the weight of 200 stares pinning her in place. But all she could see was Kael. He took another step closer, and she smelled him. Cedar and smoke and something wild that made her pulse race for entirely different reasons. His hand lifted, and she flinched, but he only brushed his knuckles against her jaw, tilting her face up so she couldn't look away. "You're shaking," he murmured. His voice was quieter now, but no less dangerous. There was a question beneath the words, and a command. Lila's glamour finally shattered. It broke like glass, the spell dissolving in a wash of light and heat that left her exposed. She felt the magic peel away from her skin, felt the truth of what she was laid bare for everyone to see. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Because she didn't look like a wolf anymore. Her eyes were too bright, amber flecked with green, the pupils slightly elongated. Her skin carried a faint golden shimmer in the firelight, and her scent. Gods. Her scent was all wrong. Not wolf, not human, feline. A murmur ran through the hall, confusion shifting to alarm. Wolves didn't trust cats. The old wars had seen to that. And a cat, hiding among them for years. Kael's hand slid to her throat. Not squeezing, just resting there, his thumb against her pulse. She felt his warmth, felt the controlled strength in his fingers. "Everyone out," he said. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Now." The pack hesitated for only a heartbeat. Then they moved, filing toward the doors in silence. Lila heard footsteps, heard the creak of hinges, heard the soft click as the last wolf pulled the door shut behind them. And then she was alone with the Alpha King. Kael didn't let go of her throat. His eyes searched hers, gold still burning beneath the surface, and she saw the wolf just barely leashed behind his gaze. "What are you?" he asked quietly. Lila swallowed against his palm. Her voice came out hoarse. I'm nothing. No one. Liar." The word was soft, but it landed like a blow. His thumb stroked once against her pulse, a slow, deliberate touch that made her shiver. "You've been here 10 years, he said. "I've seen you in the kitchens, seen you working the stables. You kept your head down, never caused trouble." His gaze darkened. "And you hid what you are every single day." She couldn't deny it, couldn't run. So she did the only thing she had left. She told the truth. "I'm a shifter," she whispered. "Just not a wolf. I can see that. My kind. We're not like you. We don't run in packs. We're solitary. And her breath hitched. We're almost gone." Kael's expression shifted. Something flickered behind the gold in his eyes. Something that looked almost like recognition. "How many are left?" he asked. Lila's throat tightened. She felt the old grief rising, the weight of 10 years spent alone pressing down on her chest until she could barely breathe. "One," she whispered. Kael went very still. His hand slid from her throat to her jaw, cradling her face with a gentleness that didn't match the raw intensity in his gaze. "Tell me what happened," he said, and for the first time in a decade, Lila wanted to. She wanted to tell him about the night her pride burned. Wanted to describe the screams and the blood and the way her mother shoved her into the river and told her to run. Wanted to confess that she'd been running ever since, that the glamour was all that kept her alive, and that she was so tired of being afraid. But before she could speak, Kael leaned closer, close enough that she felt his breath against her lips. "You're my mate," he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Lila's pulse spiked. She felt the bond snap into place between them, a golden thread she'd been trying to ignore since the moment he'd looked at her. Fate didn't care what species you were. It didn't care about old wars or broken prides. It only cared about two souls that fit. "I don't know what that means," she whispered. Kael's mouth curved. Not quite a smile, but something warmer than she'd expected. "It means you're mine to protect now," he said, "and I don't let go of what's mine." His thumb traced her lower lip, and Lila trembled. "But first," he murmured, "you're going to tell me everything." Lila closed her eyes and let herself remember. She hadn't thought about that night in years, not directly. The memories lived in her nightmares instead, twisted and sharp, always waiting just beneath the surface of sleep. But Kael was waiting, and the bond between them hummed with something that felt almost like patience. So she opened her eyes and spoke. "I was 16, she said quietly, "the youngest in my pride by nearly a decade. We lived in the northern forests, the old growth, where the trees are so thick the sun barely reaches the ground. My people, we didn't need much, just space, solitude, a place where we could shift without being seen." Kael's thumb brushed along her jaw, a silent encouragement. Lila drew a shaky breath. "There were 12 of us," she continued. "My parents, my aunts and uncles, a few cousins. We kept to ourselves, didn't interfere with wolf packs or human settlements. We just existed." Her voice cracked on the last word, until someone decided that wasn't allowed anymore. Kael's hand stilled. The air between them grew heavier. "Who?" he asked. Lila's throat tightened. She'd spent 10 years trying not to say the name out loud, as if speaking it might summon them back, but she couldn't run from this anymore. "Hunters," she whispered. "Not human. Shifters. Rogues, maybe. Or something worse. I never found out. They came at night, when we were all gathered for the full moon. They wore masks and carried silver blades, and they—" Her breath hitched. "They burned everything." Kael's jaw clenched. Lila felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them back. She'd cried enough over the years. She didn't want to cry now. not in front of him. My mother pushed me into the river, she said. Told me to run and not look back. I tried to stay, tried to fight, but she shifted and threw me in herself. The current swept me downstream before I could climb out. She swallowed hard. By the time I made it back to the clearing, it was morning, and there was nothing left. Kael said nothing, but his hand moved to the back of her neck, grounding her. I buried what I could, Lila whispered. Then I ran. I didn't know where to go or what to do. I just knew I couldn't stay there. So I kept moving, kept shifting, kept hiding, until I stumbled into a witch's camp 3 months later. Kael's eyes narrowed slightly. The glamour. Lila nodded. She was old, she said. Older than anyone I'd ever met. She took one look at me and knew what I was, knew what had happened. And she offered me a way to disappear. For a price, Kael said. Lila's mouth twisted. Always a price. She wanted my word that if I ever found others like me, I'd bring them to her. She said she collected stories, histories, that my kind were dying out and someone needed to remember. But you never found anyone, Kael said quietly. No. Lila's voice broke. I looked. For years I looked. But there was no one left. Just me. Kael's hand tightened on the back of her neck, and Lila felt something crack open inside her chest. She'd never said it out loud before. Never let herself speak the words. Just me. The last one. Alone. Kael pulled her closer, until her forehead rested against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, steady and strong and real. The witch gave you the glamour, he said, and you came here. Lila nodded against him. I heard your pack was large, she whispered, that you took in strays and didn't ask too many questions. I thought, if I could just blend in, if I could be useful and quiet and invisible, maybe I'd be safe. You were, Kael said, for 10 years. Lila pulled back slightly, meeting his gaze. Until tonight, Kael's mouth curved, not quite a smile. Until tonight, he agreed. She searched his face, looking for anger or disgust or doubt. But all she saw was that same raw intensity, and something else beneath it, something that looked almost like grief. You lost someone too, she said softly. Kael's jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he nodded once. My father, he said. 5 years ago. Rogues attacked during a border patrol. He fought them off long enough for the rest of the patrol to escape, but he didn't make it. Lila's chest ached. I'm sorry. Kael's hand slid to her wrist, his thumb tracing slow circles over her pulse. So am I, he said quietly. But that's not why I'm telling you. I'm telling you because I know what it's like to carry that weight, to wonder if you could have stopped it, to feel like you failed the people you loved. Lila's breath caught. And I'm telling you, Kael continued, his voice dropping lower, that it wasn't your fault. Tears burned behind Lila's eyes. She blinked hard, but one escaped anyway, sliding down her cheek. Kael caught it with his thumb. You were a child, he said. You did what your mother told you to do. You survived. That's not failure. That's strength. Lila shook her head. I ran. You lived, Kael said firmly. And now you're here. With me. And I swear to you, Lila, no one is going to hurt you again. The bond between them flared, golden and fierce. Lila felt it settle around her like a second skin, warm and protective and impossibly real. Why? She whispered. You don't even know me. Kael's mouth curved into something that was almost a smile. I know enough, he said. I know you've spent 10 years working in my pack without complaint. I know you're brave enough to face me instead of running. And I know, his thumb brushed her lower lip again, I know the bond doesn't lie. Lila's pulse stuttered. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I've been alone for so long, I don't know how to trust someone, how to let someone in. Kael leaned closer until his forehead rested against hers. Then we'll figure it out together, he murmured. Lila closed her eyes and let herself breathe. For the first time in 10 years, she didn't feel like she was drowning. She felt safe. Okay, she whispered. Kael's hand slid to the back of her neck, holding her gently. Okay, he echoed. They stood like that for a long moment, wrapped in silence and moonlight and the steady hum of the bond between them. Then Kael pulled back slightly, his gaze serious. I need you to tell me one more thing, he said. Lila's stomach tightened. What? The hunters who killed your pride, Kael said. Do you remember what they looked like? Any markings? Scents? Anything that might help us identify them? Lila's blood went cold. Why? She asked. Kael's jaw clenched. Because if they're still out there, they might come looking for you. Lila's breath caught. She'd spent 10 years hiding. 10 years convincing herself that the glamour was enough. That she was invisible. But what if she wasn't? What if they'd been looking for her all along? I don't know, she whispered. I barely saw them. It was dark, and I was so scared. Kael's hand tightened on her wrist. It's all right, he said. We'll deal with it. Together. Lila searched his face, looking for doubt. But all she saw was certainty. You really mean that? She said softly. I do, Kael said. You're pack now, Lila, my mate, and I protect what's mine. Lila's chest ached. But this time, it wasn't from grief. It was from hope. Lila woke to the scent of pine and rain. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then the events of the night before came rushing back. The assembly, the glamour flickering, Kael's golden eyes fixed on her like she was the only thing in the world. People. People. Her stomach flipped. She sat up slowly, realizing she was still in Kael's private quarters. He'd insisted she stay after their conversation in the clearing, claiming it was safer than her small room in the pack house. She'd been too exhausted to argue. The bed was soft, the blankets heavy and warm. But Kael hadn't joined her. She found him standing by the window, shirtless, arms crossed as he stared out, into the forest. The early morning light carved shadows across his back, highlighting the scars that mapped his skin. He looked tense. You didn't sleep, Lila said quietly. Kael glanced over his shoulder. I had things to think about. Like what? He turned to face her fully, and the weight of his gaze made her breath catch. Like how to keep you alive. Lila pulled the blanket tighter around herself. Kael. I'm serious, Lila. His voice was low, controlled. If those hunters are still out there, if they're looking for you, we need to be ready. They might not even know I'm alive, Lila said. It's been 10 years. And you think they'd just forget? Kael crossed the room, crouching in front of her so they were eye level. You're the last of your kind. That makes you valuable. Dangerous. A loose end. Lila's throat tightened. So what do you want me to do? I want you to stop pretending you're not terrified, Kael said. I can feel it through the bond. I can hear your heartbeat every time we talk about them. Lila looked away. I'm not. Lila! His hand cupped her jaw, guiding her face back to his. You don't have to be brave all the time. Not with me. Her chest ached. She wanted to argue, to insist she was fine. But the truth was, she was scared. She'd been scared for 10 years. I don't know how to stop, she whispered. Kael's thumb brushed her cheek. Then let me carry some of it for you. Lila's eyes burned. You don't understand what you're offering. I understand perfectly, Kael said. You're my mate. That means your fight is my fight. Your fear is my fear. And your safety. His voice dropped. Your safety is the only thing that matters. Lila's pulse stuttered. Why? She asked. Why does this bond mean so much to you? Kael was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, moving back to the window. My father was Alpha before me, he said. Strong, fair, loved by the pack. Lila waited. He found his mate when I was 12, Kael continued. A human woman, sweet, kind. She didn't know what she was walking into, but she loved him anyway. Lila's stomach twisted. The council opposed the bond, Kael said. They said a human Luna would weaken the pack, that she'd be a liability. His jaw clenched. My father ignored them. He marked her, married her, swore to protect her. What happened? Lila whispered. Rogues attacked during a border patrol, Kael said. She was with him. He fought, but there were too many. By the time backup arrived, he stopped. She died in his arms. And he lost himself after that. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The bond breaking nearly killed him. Lila's chest ached. Kael. He lasted 3 months, Kael said. Then he walked into the forest and never came back. The pack found his body at the base of the cliffs. Lila's breath caught. I became Alpha at 17, Kael said. And I swore I'd never let the bond control me the way it controlled him. That I'd never be that vulnerable. He turned to face her, and his eyes were molten gold. Then I met you, he said. And everything I thought I knew, everything I swore I'd never do, it doesn't matter anymore. Lila's heart hammered in her chest. You can't mean that. I do, Kael said. You're my mate, Lila, and I'll be damned if I let anyone take you from me the way they took her from him. Lila stood slowly, the blanket falling away. I'm not her, she said. I'm not weak. I'm not defenseless. I know, Kael said, but that doesn't mean I won't protect you. Lila crossed the room, stopping in front of him. And what if protecting me puts the pack at risk? She asked. What if those hunters come for me and people get hurt because of it? Kael's hands settled on her hips, pulling her closer. Then we fight, he said. Together. Lila's breath hitched. You make it sound so simple. It is simple, Kael said. You're mine. I'm yours. Everything else is just noise. Lila searched his face, looking for doubt, but all she saw was certainty. I don't deserve this, she whispered. Kael's mouth curved into something that was almost a smile. Good thing it's not about deserving, he said. It's about the bond. And the bond chose you. Lila's eyes burned. I don't know how to be someone's mate. Then we'll figure it out, Kael said. One day at a time. Lila let out a shaky breath. You're not going to let me run, are you? Not a chance, Kael said. Lila's lips twitched. You're very stubborn. Says the woman who hid among wolves for 10 years. Kael said. Lila laughed, the sound surprising even her. Fair point. Kael's hands slid up her sides, his touch warm and steady. I need you to trust me, he said. Can you do that? Lila's heart pounded. She wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe that this, whatever this was, could actually work. But trust was hard. Trust was terrifying. I want to, she said, but I've spent so long keeping people out. I don't know if I remember how to let someone in. Kael leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers. Then start small, he murmured. Stay with me today. Let me show you the pack. Let me prove I'm not going anywhere. Lila closed her eyes. And if the hunters come? Then we deal with them, Kael said. Together. Lila's breath shuddered. You're asking for a lot. I know, Kael said, but I'm not asking you to do it alone. Lila opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. The bond between them hummed, warm and steady and impossibly real. Okay, she whispered. Kael's hands tightened on her waist. Okay? I'll stay, Lila said. For now. Kael's smile was slow and fierce. That's all I need." He pulled her into his arms, and for the first time in 10 years, Lila let herself be held. She let herself be safe. "Thank you," Kael murmured against her hair. Lila's chest ached. "For what?" "For trusting me," Kael said, "even when it's hard." Lila's throat tightened. "I'm not sure I do yet." "Then I'll keep earning it," Kael said. "Every day, for as long as it takes." Lila closed her eyes and let herself breathe. The bond between them pulsed, golden and steady, and for the first time in 10 years, Lila let herself hope. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Kael's study, casting long shadows across the worn maps spread over his desk. Lila stood near the doorway, watching him trace routes with one finger, his jaw tight. She'd slept in his quarters last night. Nothing had happened beyond his arms around her and the slow, steady rhythm of his breathing against her hair. But it had been enough to leave her feeling raw and exposed in the daylight. Kael looked up, his gaze finding hers instantly. "Come here." It wasn't a command, not quite. But the bond tugged at her anyway, pulling her toward him like a thread wound too tight. She crossed the room slowly, each step measured. Kael straightened, closing the distance between them in 2 strides. His hand lifted to her cheek, thumb brushing her jaw. "Did you sleep?" "Some," Lila said. "You?" "Enough." His eyes searched hers. "How are you feeling?" Lila hesitated. The truth was complicated. She felt safer than she had in years, and more terrified than ever. "I don't know," she admitted. Kael nodded, his hand sliding down to rest at the back of her neck. "That's fair." Before she could respond, a sharp knock echoed through the room. Kael's posture shifted instantly, shoulders squaring, alpha presence flooding the space. "Enter." The door swung open, and Marcus stepped inside. His face was grim, his normally easy demeanor replaced by something hard and urgent. "We have a problem," Marcus said. Kael's hand dropped from Lila's neck, though he stayed close enough that she could feel the heat of him. "What kind of problem?" Marcus glanced at Lila, hesitation flickering across his face. "She stays," Kael said. "Whatever it is, she needs to know." Marcus nodded slowly. "There were sightings last night." "Near the eastern border," Lila's stomach clenched. "Sightings of what?" Marcus met her eyes. "Hunters. 3 of them. They didn't cross into packland, but they were close enough to leave marks." The room tilted. Lila's pulse hammered in her ears, and her breath came too fast. "What kind of marks?" Kael's voice was flat, controlled. "Tracking sigils," Marcus said. "Old magic, the kind that doesn't fade unless the target's dead." Lila's knees threatened to buckle. She forced herself to stay upright, hands curling into fists at her sides. Kael's hand found her wrist, his grip firm and grounding. "They're looking for her," Marcus nodded. "That's my guess." Lila closed her eyes. Of course they were. She'd been a fool to think she could ever truly escape. "How long before they find her?" Kael's voice was low, dangerous. "Hard to say," Marcus said. "The glamour held this long, but if they're using tracking magic, it's only a matter of time." Lila pulled her wrist free from Kael's grip, stepping back. "I need to leave." Kael's eyes snapped to hers, gold bleeding into the edges. "No." "They'll come for me," Lila said. "And when they do, they'll come through your pack. I can't. I won't let that happen." "You're not leaving," Kael said. "I'm putting everyone at risk just by being here," Lila said. Her voice cracked, but she forced the words out anyway. "You don't understand what these people are capable of. They wiped out my entire pride in one night. Every single person I loved, gone. And they did it because we wouldn't bow to their leader." Kael moved closer, his presence overwhelming. Then we prepare. We fortify the borders. We set patrols. But you are not running. You can't fight them, Lila said. They're not like other hunters. They use magic, dark magic, and they don't stop until their target's dead. Then we'll kill them first, Kael said. Marcus cleared his throat. I hate to interrupt, but she's right about one thing. These hunters, they're not rogues. They're organized, funded, and they've been tracking shifters for decades. Kael's jaw tightened. Then we need to know what we're up against. Lila's hands shook. I can tell you what you're up against. A group of fanatics who believe non-wolf shifters are abominations. They hunted my kind to near extinction, and they won't stop just because you tell them to. Kael turned to Marcus. I want eyes on the eastern border, double patrols, and I want every enforcer on alert. If these hunters so much as breathe near Packland, I want to know about it. Marcus nodded. Understood. And Marcus, Kael added, keep this quiet. I don't want the pack panicking. Marcus hesitated. They're going to find out eventually. Let me handle that, Kael said. For now, just get the patrols in place. Marcus left without another word, the door clicking shut behind him. Lila sank into the nearest chair, her legs finally giving out. This is my fault. Kael crouched in front of her, his hands settling on her knees. No, it's not. I brought them here, Lila said. I should have kept running. Should have stayed away from Packlands entirely. And where would you have gone? Kael asked. How long do you think you could have kept running before they caught you? Lila didn't answer. You've been alone for 10 years, Kael said. Running, hiding, surviving. But survival isn't living, Lila. And you don't have to do it alone anymore. I don't want anyone else to die because of me, Lila whispered. Kael's hands tightened on her knees. Then let me protect you. Let the pack protect you. We're stronger together. Lila looked at him, her chest aching. What if it's not enough? Then we'll fight, Kael said. And we'll win. Lila's throat closed. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that this, whatever this was, could actually work. But hope was dangerous. Hope got people killed. I don't know if I can do this, she said. Kael rose, pulling her to her feet with him. His hands framed her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. You don't have to do it alone, that's the point. Lila's breath hitched. You keep saying that. Because it's true, Kael said. You're not alone anymore. You have me. You have the pack. And I'm not letting some fanatics take that away. Lila's eyes burned. I'm scared. I know, Kael said. His thumb brushed away, a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. But fear doesn't mean you're weak. It means you care. And that's not a bad thing. Lila let out a shaky breath. What if they come tonight? Then we'll be ready, Kael said. Lila closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. The bond between them pulsed, warm and steady and impossibly real. I'm sorry, she whispered. Kael's forehead pressed against hers. For what? For dragging you into this, Lila said. You didn't drag me anywhere, Kael said. The bond brought you to me, and I'm not letting go. Lila's hands fisted in his shirt, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a world that wouldn't stop spinning. I need you to trust me, Kael murmured. Can you do that? Lila opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. The gold in his irises glowed faintly, the wolf just beneath the surface. I'm trying, she said. Kael's mouth curved into something soft and fierce. That's all I need. He kissed her forehead, the gesture achingly gentle. Lila's chest tightened. She didn't deserve this, didn't deserve him. But for the first time in 10 years, she wanted to try. What do we do now? She asked. Kael pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. We prepare, we stay vigilant, and we show these hunters that you're not alone anymore. Lila nodded slowly. Okay. Kael's smile was small but real. Okay. Outside, the sun climbed higher, casting light across the packlands. And somewhere beyond the eastern border, the hunters waited. But for now, Lila let herself stand in Kael's arms. Let herself be held. Let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to face this alone. The forest path was narrow, overgrown with ferns and moss that muffled their footsteps. Lila followed Kael in silence, her pulse still thrumming from the weight of the morning's conversation. Every sound made her flinch. The snap of a twig, the rustle of leaves overhead. She kept waiting for the hunters to appear, for everything to fall apart again. Kael glanced back, his hand outstretched. "It's not much farther." Lila took his hand. His grip was warm, steady. It grounded her when nothing else could. They walked for another 10 minutes before the trees opened into a small glen. Sunlight poured through the canopy, illuminating wildflowers that dotted the clearing in clusters of violet and gold. A stream cut through the far side, its water so clear she could see the stones beneath. Lila stopped at the edge, breath catching. "It's beautiful." Kael stepped beside her, his gaze on the glen rather than her. "My mother used to bring me here when I was young." Lila looked at him, surprised. He didn't talk about his family often. She'd assumed it was easier that way. "She'd tell me stories," Kael continued. His voice was soft, distant. About the first wolves. About what it meant to lead. She said this place was sacred, that the earth here remembered every promise ever made on it. Lila's chest tightened. "What happened to her?" Kael's jaw flexed. "Rogues. 8 years ago. She was trying to broker peace with a neighboring pack when they turned on her." He paused, eyes darkening. "I wasn't strong enough to save her." Lila's hand found his, threading their fingers together. "You were just a kid." "I was 18, Kael said. "Old enough to know better, old enough to protect her." He exhaled slowly. "I swore that day I'd never let anyone I care about face danger alone again." Lila's throat ached. She understood that kind of guilt, the way it burrowed deep and never left. "I didn't bring you here to be morbid," Kael said, turning to face her. His hand lifted, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I brought you here because this is the place I go when I need to remember what matters. And you matter, Lila." Lila's breath hitched. "Kael, I know you're scared," he said. "I know trusting me, trusting anyone, feels impossible right now. But I need you to understand something." He stepped closer, his other hand rising to cup her cheek. "You're not a burden," Kael said. "You're not a mistake. And you're sure as hell not alone anymore." Lila's eyes stung. She wanted to believe him. Wanted it so badly it hurt. "I don't know how to let someone protect me," she whispered. Kael's thumb traced the line of her jaw. "Then let me teach you." Lila closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. The bond between them pulsed, warm and fierce and impossibly real. "Stay," Kael murmured. "Not because you're afraid, not because you think you owe me. Stay because you want to." Lila opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. The gold in his irises glowed faintly, the wolf just beneath the surface. "I want to," she said. Her voice was barely audible. I'm terrified I'll get you killed." Kael's mouth curved into something soft and fierce. "Then we'll be terrified together." Lila let out a shaky laugh. It sounded broken, but it was real. Kael's hand slid to her wrist, his thumb brushing the pulse point there. "I want to give you something, a promise." Lila's heart stuttered. What kind of promise? Kael released her wrist and reached into his pocket, pulling out a small vial of dark ink. "A rune. Something my mother taught me before she died." Lila stared at the vial, her pulse racing. "What does it do?" "It's a protection mark," Kael said. "It won't make you invincible. But it'll tie you to the pack, to me. Anyone who tries to harm you will feel it. And I'll know the moment you're in danger." Lila's breath caught. That's a lot." Kael's gaze held hers. "I know. And if you're not ready, I won't push. But I need you to know. I'm not going anywhere, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe." Lila looked down at the vial, then back at him. The fear was still there, sharp and unrelenting. But beneath it, something else stirred. Hope. "Okay," she said. Her voice was stronger now. "Do it." Kael's eyes flared gold. "You're sure?" Lila nodded. "I'm sure." Kael took her hand, turning it palm up. His fingers were gentle as he uncorked the vial and dipped a thin, wooden stylus into the ink. The first touch was cool against her skin. Lila watched as he drew the rune, a series of interlocking lines that spiraled outward from her wrist. The ink shimmered faintly, catching the light. "This will sting," Kael warned. Lila braced herself. A moment later, heat flared beneath the mark, sharp and electric. She hissed, but didn't pull away. Kael's free hand steadied her, his thumb brushing soothing circles against her knuckles. "Almost done." The heat intensified, then faded, leaving a faint warmth in its wake. Lila looked down at the completed rune. It was beautiful, delicate and intricate, like lace made of shadow. "It's permanent," Kael said. His voice was rough. "You'll carry it for the rest of your life." Lila flexed her fingers, feeling the faint hum of magic beneath her skin. "I can feel it." Kael's hand tightened around hers. "It's bound to me now. To the pack. You're one of us." Lila's eyes burned. She'd spent 10 years running. 10 years alone. And now she had this. "Thank you," she whispered. Kael pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. Lila pressed her face into his chest, breathing him in. The bond between them pulsed, warm and steady and real. "I won't let them take you," Kael murmured against her hair. "I swear it." Lila's hands fisted in his shirt, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a world that wouldn't stop spinning. She didn't know what came next. Didn't know if the hunters would come tonight or tomorrow or a week from now, but for the first time in 10 years, she wasn't facing it alone. Kael pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "We should head back. Marcus will want to debrief before nightfall." Lila nodded, reluctant to let go. "Okay." Kael's hand found hers again, threading their fingers together. They walked back through the forest in silence, the weight of the rune a constant reminder against her wrist. The pack house came into view as the sun began its descent. Wolves moved across the grounds, some in human form, others shifted, their eyes alert. Marcus waited on the front steps, his expression grim. "We've had another sighting. Eastern perimeter? Half an hour ago." Kael's grip on Lila's hand tightened. "How many?" "3, Marcus said. "They didn't cross the border, just watched." Lila's stomach dropped. "They're testing us." Marcus nodded. "That's what I think, too." Kael's jaw flexed. "Double the patrols." "I want eyes on every inch of the border." Marcus inclined his head. "Already done." Kael glanced at Lila, his expression softening. "You okay?" Lila nodded, even, though her pulse was racing. "I'm okay." Kael's thumb brushed across her knuckles. "Stay close tonight. I don't want you out of my sight." Lila managed a faint smile. "I wasn't planning on going anywhere." Kael's mouth curved, but the tension in his shoulders didn't ease. The hunters were close, closer than ever. But Lila wasn't running anymore. She looked down at the rune on her wrist, the lines still faintly glowing in the fading light. She was done hiding. And if the hunters wanted her, they'd have to go through Kael first.